What's up, Rick? How are we doing today, man?
Going on, Chad? How are you been, man?
I'm doing well. It's been a long
Good.
time. We're now Facebook friends. We never knew each other except we were opponents.
Sure.
I think we played against each other in '98. I was in Nashville. You were in Vegas, and it's what 20 over 20 years later.
How long? Too many to count. Right.
That's right. So yeah, I wanted to bring you on board. You've been doing some awesome stuff in regards to video analysis, all that, and we're going to get to that. But let's go all the way back to when you were just little Rick running around in the area you were
Sure.
born in. Tell us about that.
Sure. I look at Jeff Fry, and he always has these. He was the smaller kid, and I relate to that. I was that same guy. Me and my twin, Chris. We graduated high school, 5'10", 140 pounds. And in today's game, I'm not even sure I would have played in college. The specs now that you have to have. I mean, you got to have a certain exit velo. You have to have this. So, it's sad to say, but I don't even know if I would have played college baseball.
Mhm.
But I was given the opportunity. I was quick. I went to a junior college in Northern California, and I'm from originally from Carmel, California, which is the Bay Area or Monterey Bay. It's kind of Clint Eastwood territory. But so I went about an hour north. Went to a small JUCO, really good school. Barry Woodhead was the best coach I've ever had to this day. I mean, he was the most knowledge in this game that I've ever had. And yeah, I just went there, had to redshirt my first year, had to get in the gym, had to put in the work. My sophomore year, I ended up getting hurt. So I was really down about that. I had just signed to go to Oklahoma State, and I was hurt, so I didn't get a chance to play that whole year. So the Indians were having a camp, and I can't remember where it was, but they were having a camp. It was kind of an invite only thing, and so I showed up, did really well at the camp, ended up getting drafted that year in the 28th round. So you
Without
know,
playing the whole year.
without it, yeah, yeah, without playing. I mean, I turned it. So I was about 180 pounds now, 180. So I put on 40 pounds in the
That's
two.
impressive.
Yeah, I think I was a late bloomer, but
Yeah.
but for us, I don't know about you, but the way the gym is pushed now on the youth, um, I'm not big on building and stacking muscle over stuff that hasn't grown yet. So I don't mind getting in the gym and doing things for balance, stability, core strength, just the things that'll help you become a better athlete. More mobility, range of motion, stuff like that. But back then we didn't do any of that. We just showed up in college and then you started working out. Like my high school didn't even have a gym. We had a little bit of gym. We had maybe a couple weights here and there, but so I ended up getting pretty big, pretty strong. I ended up running, getting pretty good with my time. I got all the way down to a 6.38 uh,
Yes.
time. So it was
Good
that really kind of opened everything up for me. I was consistently sitting around a 6.5. And I was a second baseman, middle infielder. And so I go to spring training, and it's a whole different world. It's a whole different animal. Everybody there is good, and I think the hardest thing starting my career was that whole do I fit in? Do I fit in here? There's so many great athletes here, and I think that's the hardest thing is that mental side of trying to figure out if you even belong in this game at this point because now the game is sped up. It's much quicker. It's more accurate. Guys don't make as many mistakes, and if you do make mistakes, you're going home. So, and I loved it. My first year, I had the most fun I've had because, as a sophomore, I didn't play, so I had been sitting there all winter. I think I got hurt somewhere in early December, and so I had to miss that whole year. So for basically 7 months, I hadn't done anything. I just getting ready, trying to rehab back, and got there and went to my first season and I was on fire. It was like I didn't even care. I just wanted to put a bat in my hand and go play. So I ended up having a pretty good year. I hit 290, and just did really well. And then the next year I came back and it was that first year in spring training, where you see everybody because your first year you get drafted, you show up and it's just the group of guys that get drafted and you kind of have your little mini camp and you break camp and go. And that first year of spring training, man, it was just eye opening. You saw it was a business, and you had to try to put that out of your head, and you had to go out there and go to the grindstone and just keep your nose forward. Don't worry about all your surroundings and try to get after it. But man, it is hard to do, as you know.
Yeah,
It's
no doubt. Yeah, so you get drafted by the Indians, correct?
yes.
You start on your career to the minor leagues, and what was the minor leagues like for you? Was it a complete grind, or was it?
It was an apps. Yeah, it was a grind.
Yeah,
It was a grind. So first couple years I was going to instructional league and they really liked me. And, I got a chance to talk to, Buddy Bell and all these big names and just, really, it was just an awesome feeling. Well, in 95, I played in the California league and I ended up breaking my wrist. I went up for a ball, center field, tried to rob it, and I came down on it really, just really weird. And this was in Rancho before they actually had the padding on it. I don't know if you ever played in Cali.
played there.
So yeah, so they now of course they have padding on it, but so I ended up hitting it, and you know how it goes. You just want to play. I mean, I didn't want to sit. I didn't want to sit, so I would just go through that whole, show up early, tape my wrist, try to make it, and it was just painful. I mean, it was hard to swing. I switched hit. So it actually didn't bother me as much batting left hand as it right handed. So every time I saw a lefty, I just kind of cringed. I was like, oh, God, this is going to be a battle. I'm going to have to bunt twice tonight. But so that year I ended up having a terrible year. I just had a terrible year, and it was a mental thing. I wasn't physically ready to play a full season. I should have, hindsight, should have just said, hey, I'm hurt. Um, I need to get this looked at. And my I don't know. I don't know why I did. I just felt like I could keep going, I guess. I just felt like I could tape it up and be a man about it.
Right.
Probably the worst thing I could do. But anyways, I went at the end of the season, got an X-ray, flew to Cleveland, went through the whole deal, and they said, "Yep, there's a small it was a small tear and then an actual break just underneath whatever the handmade is into the wrist, and so it was a little small fracture." And I was like, "Yep, that sounds about right." So I
Feel
think
every swing.
yeah, right, exactly. And then so I went to spring training the next year, and I just didn't feel real confident since I didn't put up numbers, and that was after my second year. So my second year, I actually went to Columbus and just was in that whole frame of mind where I don't know how you were, but they said, I want you to swing a bigger bat. I want you to, try to do this, try to do that. And so I was trying to hit home runs
Mm,
from the get go, which I'm not a home run guy.
that's not
And
your
so I think that approach, I would run into a few and then think, all right, well, let's keep moving forward. And that approach for me just didn't work. And you try to carry that through 140 games, you're going to show who you really are. And I ended up hitting like 214, having a bad year. So the following year, I ended up hurting my wrist. So now I'm not confident. I'm not confident going into spring training. And and it just showed because I went in nervous that year. It was no longer fun. I was more like felt like I gotta do something above and beyond just what I'm doing. So I put way more pressure on myself than I should have. And I went in and just had a mediocre spring. And you could tell like towards the end, when rosters are starting to be filled and guys are getting, everybody's getting moved down. You're just like, oh, this is not good if this guy's on the roster right
but
now.
the
That
first
doesn't,
back for the big
yeah,
league, right?
that doesn't leave a home for me. So yeah, so I ended up getting released, and I just took it as a learning experience, and went to my hometown in Salinas. We had a independent team in Salinas, which is about 30 minutes from my hometown, and so I got to play in front of my hometown. I was healthy. I was feeling good again. My mind was right. You got to play in front of family and friends, and it was like playing all over in high school. And so for me, I had a great year. I had an unbelievable year. It was a league MVP. Led in a bunch of offensive categories. Was top five in a lot of them. And so I ended up signing back with the Reds.
Okay.
So the Reds, yeah, I go to spring training in '97 with the Reds, and I hurt my wrist sliding again. So yeah,
Is
so
this
I
head first?
no, it was butt first. Put my wrist down. So that's why I teach all my kids now slide with your hands in the air.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean yeah. for multiple purposes. But yeah, I mean, I was just one of those guys that, you put the wrist down. I just jammed it into the ground, and that was it. And I was like, oh no, this just did not just happen. So I ended up telling them I was hurt. Well, I'm the new guy in the organization. It was easy for them to just let me go. So I ended up going back to Salinas again, ended up playing there again, and I was just rock solid again. I felt like my mind was right. I was like back home. To me, it just seemed easy in my head, even though the game wasn't. It was still tough. We had Ben Weber on our team. He went to the big leagues with the Angels. I mean, we had tons of guys that were good in that league. But so I ended up going, and then the Padres. I think somebody went down, and they were just like, "Hey, we'll sign you." So I ended up signing with the Padres about, I don't know, 20 or 30 games into the season of independent ball, and then I stayed with the Padres for the next 3 years. And then once I was through my 6 years, I signed with the Dodgers. Um, that was another injury in spring training. I ended up getting a hairline fracture in my ankle trying to slide and playing right field. And you know how the AAA fields aren't the best scenarios for surrounding. So you got those metal poles, and I ended up sliding into one perfectly. It didn't hit the cyclone fence, hit the pole. So I ended up, or hit the metal bar. And I mean, it's just one thing led to another. It's just like my whole career seems like it's been one little tiny hiccup. Nothing that's been bad, but mentally destroying. So I ended up rehabbing that all spring, and then they ended up trading me to the White Sox. So I left spring training, went to Arizona, showed up for one day. Hi, I'm Rick, and then we broke camp. Like I was there one day, one game, didn't know anybody, and then I went to Birmingham, was in Double A with the White Sox, and then I spent the next few years with them. Got up to Triple A a little bit, and then decided, I wasn't going to try to sign back, and I just wanted to. Charlie Kerfeld and were friends from Salinas. He was a coach on another team, and he called me and said, "Hey, you want to come play up here at Chico and independent ball?" I said, "Yeah, I want to just have fun right now."
Mhm.
So I ended up going up there and just playing there, and then I ended up here at Kansas City for the last 3 years of my career, and just enjoying baseball again, loving baseball. And I think organized ball for a lot of guys, it's such a grind that you just stress yourself out. You put so much pressure on yourself to make it, that it just stops being fun. And that would be my only advice for younger players is you got to just keep it fun. I mean, all those things are out of your control. Whether you move up or down isn't in your hands. I mean, it is somewhat if you play well, obviously, or if you play bad.
Right.
But for the most part, I mean, if you just keep your head right and you do all the things that God gave you, you should come out on top, mentally at least. Physically, it's a different animal. I mean, physically, you got to be able to hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. You got to be able to react to it. I mean, if you can't react to it, you can't play at a higher level. So, and that's kind of what I think I ran into. I think I ran into the game got fast. It got tough. It just got tough. And then it's mentally tough every day in and out. You're just like, I got to face that every day. I got to face that every day. Nasty slider, nasty changeup. It just, I remember in spring training, Paul Shuey threw me a split finger, and it was the first one I ever really seen. Cause you think college kids have, but he's thrown it about 92,
Right.
and it was just stupid good. And he threw it, and it looked like a UFO. I just looked at it and was like, I got to hit that. I'm like, there's no way I play at a higher level.
Right.
And then eventually, you build that pitch library. You understand. You start seeing more of those pitches, and your brain starts to identify. At least for me, you see that spin, and your brain says split. It just immediate. You kind of know the action of it. But I think that takes a lot of repetition. You got to see a lot of that stuff if you're going to get good at it. You got to see it a good changeup before you can start to really identify it and understand it. So I always try to just tell my kids, try to build as best of pitch library as you can. Understand the pitches. I would rather my kids strike out in 3 pitches instead of rolling over the first one to the shortstop, because at least you're tracking pitches and understanding what they're doing, or seeing spin, or trying to get an idea of what the recognition side of it's supposed to be, because I think that's where hitters are built. That's where the reactive swing comes from. How well you see is how quick you're going to swing. So I mean, that for me anyway. So yeah, yeah, this is yeah, it was a long career, man. 13 years,
Yeah.
ups and downs, just grinding it out, wanting to get to the big leagues. My brother ended up getting the big leagues in 2005, so I was really pumped about that. He called me, he was like, I think he was in Detroit. And I was like, what is he doing in Detroit? Because that's all he said.
Right.
I'm in Detroit. And I was like, what is he in Detroit? I was like, oh crap, he got called up. So I was like, sweet. So I ended up getting to see it. I think he faced Mike Maroth, big lefty,
Mhm.
had a big, just ball was everywhere. And he had to bunt his first at bat. So he had to get a bunt down. He ended up getting it down, but I couldn't even imagine my first big league at bat off a
Mhm.
lefty lefty because my brother he just batted left, and
Yeah.
I can't even imagine a lefty lefty matchup, and then you're told you got to bunt. You're just like, that's a tough first at bat,
Oh my
right?
gosh. So your brother's Chris Prieto and you're twins.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and he's a coach right now. He's the base running outfield coordinator with the Rays. So he's been in organized ball since I can remember. He started with the Padres. He ended up he was a third base coach. Not this last year, but the year before, he was the third base coach for the Mariners, and then this year he ended up moving over to the Rays, and it's
Yeah.
their coordinator.
Yeah. I'm sure I've come across him at some point. I don't.
Yeah, well, you faced him in '98 too, for sure. You faced him probably more than you faced me. You probably remembered him because he was on that team with me in Vegas.
Yeah.
He was also there, and he was also there in '99, and then in 2000 he was there with the Dodgers. So
Okay.
they had switched homes, I think,
Yep.
that year. So he ended up playing there again. Um, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah. The new stadium out here is a lot better than Cashman Field. I can tell you
Oh my,
that.
I hated Cashman Field.
It was not fun. It was
Well,
not.
I mean, well, it's a tough city to be in. You got all that nightlife stuff, and and then you got this field at the end of the strip,
Mhm.
and we just getting a lot of fans. It's too
No.
much of a touristy town. You're just not there's not a lot of homegrown baseball fans there, but
Yeah. It's better now. With the new
yeah,
stadium
now, yeah,
out by Red Rock Casino in Summerlin out there, just a way better atmosphere.
sure,
I did some pro scouting. Scouted the. I usually have to scout the home team since I was when I was the scout. So I was
sure,
scouting the Mets for years, and then it was going to be the A's. So I did that for just one season. But man, that's so 13 years. That's actually how long I played too. 13 years. It seems to be. I went from age 17 to 30. And
yeah,
same thing for me. Injuries stopped me. Um, from continuing and from family issues going not issues but wanting to be home with my family at this point with 4 kids,
sure.
all that stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of how I was. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of where my head was. I just wanted to kind of find a home, and I met my wife here in Kansas City. We actually met at our apartment complex, and that's how we met. And so then I just basically made Kansas City my home, and then we ended up moving back here to her hometown. So this is Carrollton's her hometown, about an hour east of Kansas City.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people that get out to Missouri, that area, just kind of fall in love with the area. Is that how it happened for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a California guy, so I'm not used to all these seasons. But I mean, the winters can grow on you, but nobody really gets used to it. But I would say that's the hardest part is the winters. Even though it's not that bad, we're not up north, but just that whole can go to 0 degrees all the way up to 105 degrees. It's kind of a tough window to work in. And sometimes in Missouri, man, you can be at 95, and then by the end of the day, it's 32. You're
Mm.
like, what is happening here? So yeah, it's pretty extreme, but the area itself is beautiful. I love living the country life. I love the slow, not the hustle and bustle of a big city. It's just more my style.
Right. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah,
So you and I had I want to dive into. I've been watching your stuff on Facebook. You now have a facility, so maybe tell us about tell us about your facility and what you're doing with your training all your students.
sure. So I basically started the year after my career. So 2005 and 2006, I started coaching. I started with Millhouse AEP, which is Chris Millfield. He's kind of Albert Pujols' head trainer, and So I started there, and then I ended up deciding we were going to move back to my hometown. So I ended up saying, you know what, I'm going to start my own facility out here. There's a lot of kids out here that don't get the development that I know they could get. I got a lot of neighboring small towns about a half hour from me, so I got a pretty good hub here in Carrollton. But I've done pretty well. I tend to get quite a few city kids. I'll actually get some kids from Columbia, which is almost an hour and a half away. So I mean, just for me, our facility is it's small. It's just me. It's not open to the public. It's I train kids. We learn the game. That's where my focus is. It's not about going and playing a ton of tournaments, even though we do go and play because we fall into that trap. We have to go play somewhere.
Okay.
That's the downside is the tournament fees that we end up having to put up. That's the part I don't like. But anyways,
Mhm.
we um we end up doing the training. I train all the way through the winter, so I do what we call our winter workshops, and it's just basically covers just about everything. And then I have intermediate, basically beginner classes, and we start all the way up into the advanced classes. And yeah, it's been going pretty good. I've had my own facility since 2012, so about 8 years now.
Okay.
So yeah,
Nice. So that's your full time gig, just
it,
immersed in baseball with kids.
that's it. I mean, full time. I'm probably about 70-30 boys and girls. So I got about 70% baseball, and 30% of my clients are probably girls. Um, it's just that's the way it worked out. I don't know why. I mean, you know how that is. The softball world, I think, they tend to not go to a baseball facility because they think it's a different game. They think
Yeah.
for some reason it's different, but I get a lot of good softball parents, and that's the biggest thing is the parents. You got to have good parents,
Right.
and that's the hardest thing is especially when you're talking about an organization. My whole basis is to develop kids and make them better human beings, not worry about whether or not they're going to get to the major leagues. That's a lot of stress for anybody to have, and I just want them better baseball players because they want to be better. A lot of times I get parents that just put their kids in my program when the kids clearly don't want to play baseball.
Mm.
Um, and so I have a talk with the parents, like, I don't think he likes it.
Right.
And that you got to have a passion for this. I want kids in my program that want to excel at a high level. I want kids that want to be good. You know, go through the hard stuff now so that when they get to where I was in college and pro ball, they already have a feeling of, what's expected of them, how to compete, all those things, all those good things that you wish you learned when you were in high school. Imagine all the ways you learned how to hit, and if you just had that information, at a younger age, it just would have been that much easier on you. So that's really where I try to go. Yeah, so my developmental side is it just 7 days a week. I don't really have a day off. I get people that'll call me. I usually have a set schedule that they can schedule online. So I do lessons, and then like Mondays and Thursdays are my workshop days, and for the boys, and then Tuesdays and Fridays are my workshop with the girls. Wednesdays are full lesson days. Saturdays are full lesson days, and then Sundays are kind of a trickle day when I get a lot of people. A lot of clients will buy packages online, and there's just no time during the week
Right.
to get it in. So I'm just like, just give me a call, and we'll make Sunday the day. So I try. My wife makes me take Sunday off,
Right.
but I but I end up somehow there doing something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
No,
been
that's healthy. I like where your wife's mind's at. Like you gotta have a
yeah,
day. Yeah, and then but not a better day to be on the Sabbath. So
exactly. So it works out. She keeps me in check, and yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been 8 years of just the ups and downs of loving the game of baseball, and going through it. I've have quite a few kids in college now, and it's been fun to watch the growth from when I started to watch these kids, where they're at now, and giving me, I don't ever take the credit for it. The way I look at it is I'm showing you what to do. We're going to work on all the things, but you have to apply it. You have to do it. I'm giving you the credit. You got to put the time in. You got to do the reps, and I'm just there to help you understand what we're doing. But you get all the credit. So when my kids come back and they thank me and they're like, "Hey, I really appreciate you were one of the best coaches I've ever had," or something like that. That always makes you feel good. I mean,
absolutely.
those are the things why you do it. And that's why I keep doing it.
That's awesome. Well, that's cool that you have your own place. You can have, essentially control of everything. And
Yeah.
You're saying, how many teams do you have? Is it just one team or?
So I have 4 teams, but it's been tough because I try to run all those practices, and you're like, wow.
Mm,
I try to put a good practice schedule together, and I've actually had some good dads that I can have around me all the time that just love the game and that want to be around it. So my practice routines and everything are where I think you get the most development. I mean, if you're going to learn how to field ground balls, you got to learn to do it in practice. I mean, if you go into a game, you're going to get what, one ground ball, one fly ball. So the development in a game is more the savviness, right? How fast does your mind work in a game? Are you a good decision maker? Like,
mhm.
those are the kind of things I like playing games for. But when we get down to the kids, it's all about fundamentals. You gotta understand how to field a ground ball. And a lot of these kids, they love the game, but they're physically not capable. So we gotta work on structuring a better foundation and learning how to use their core better and range of motion and flexibility. So I tend to spend a lot of time making sure these kids can do that. But that's another program that I do outside of this.
Mm.
I try not to incorporate that during fielding practice, even though we do work on some of it. But and that's what irks me about the hitting world is they try to tie everything together. You got all these drills, weighted stuff, and all this while you're swinging a bat. It's like
Mm.
you have the implement in your hand. The gym is for the gym. The cage is for hitting. And so you can separate the two and get more out of it instead of trying to morph the two together, where you need to learn how to become better athletically. And then you also need to become better with your swing. Well,
Mhm.
those two things might have to happen at a different time. So yeah, I'm good with the way some coaches like to approach their hitting styles and incorporating certain things. But yeah, I mean, like, for me, I mean, you want to talk a little bit about hitting? I can go into this. We can go into this hitting. Because I know you've seen a lot of the stuff and a lot of the videos that I put up. I've been just questioning some of the motives behind trying to implement training tools. And I think there's good stuff out there. I think there's very valuable information and very good tools. The problem that I have with a lot of those tools is some of these kids are buying them, going home, and they're not using them properly, or somebody's not there monitoring them. Like a connection ball, for example.
Okay.
To me, that should be organic. That should be something that you use when you're 8 to 12 years old, and you might have an introductory to trying to keep connected. Right? This kid has no idea. 9 times out of 10, the reason why the kid's disconnecting, because he's physically incapable of doing it. He's just not quite strong enough yet. So forcing somebody to put it in a position that their body's not ready for, to me, really defeats the purpose of trying to learn how to swing and understand. I want to find the. I mean, look, I'm a perfect example. In high school, I didn't hit a lick right-handed. John Lacido was my high school coach, and he was a played in Double A with the Yankees. And he said, "You know what, Rick, you can't hit right-handed. Let's start batting left." I mean, that's the real
You were
conversation he
faster
had.
right-handed?
Yeah, I batted right-handed, and he started having me switch hit. And
Yeah.
so I started batting left-handed. I was 100% forward. I was like, "Yes, thank God." I just didn't feel good with myself. I had a long swing. I barred out. I mean, it was hard to make changes. I knew the changes I wanted to make. It's just hard to do. And so we worked on stuff like that. We didn't have a connection ball back then, but we had the cone, and where you can't hit the cone and all that kind of stuff. And I don't mind using those kind of things for feel. um but yeah, I started switch hitting, and that's kind of where it took off for me, because that's where I got really on fire for it. But all these implements, 8 to 12 years old, I feel like is where you should be. Now, if you're a 14 and 15-year-old kid that enjoys the game, but you really haven't had a lot of time around it, and you come in and you're extremely raw, and you want to use a tool, I'm okay with that. But when I see college kids that have good swings, they have an idea of how to swing, even high school kids, and they're still using tools. To me, you're wasting time, and they're thinking about making physical changes versus making all the mental changes that's necessary. The way I look at it, and this is how we were when me and you played, the mental part of the game was like this, and the physical part was like that.
Mhm.
It's flip flopped. Now it's like you got to have the physical part, and we'll just worry about the mental later.
Right.
It's never. And so I see all these guys. I mean, I go onto to you know all Facebook or Instagram, and you look at all these guys. I'm looking at professional guys that are tinkering still, and they're using. I mean, they're 3-4 years into pro ball. Like, uh, I mean, I'm working on plate coverage, recognition, getting better with my feel and who I am at the table, not tinkering. I'm at the point of tinkering. So if you want to spread out a little bit, or you want to change your loading mechanism, and you want to get better on time with your body, or try to simulate a better process for your own tempo, because you have that. We always have that your own little tempo,
Mhm.
and that can maybe change. But to start putting changes where you put a ball on, and you're trying to I just think it's a bad way for some of those older guys to really think. So I'm not going to bash any of those. There's some that I like. I don't mind heavy bat work. I don't mind some of that stuff. Again though, you can get a lot of that stuff in the gym. Just work on power, strength in the gym, and then really put the implement in your hand that you want to get good at, and that's your bat.
So swing the bat is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
swing the bat.
swing the bat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm on that train too. Some of the stuff I don't understand. I've had other conversations with other guys, but yeah, I think the time. Let's say you go in for a 30-minute lesson. Like, am I spending 10 minutes of that with a ball? Like, what
Right.
is that? How much am I actually? Maybe that's repetition and stuff. I don't know. But there's. I think at the end of the day, we're just trying to look out for the kids. Are the kids getting the right coaching and teaching?
Absolutely.
Is it just because of this gadget or gizmo that, oh, if they do this, a parent thinks, okay, well, if they're doing that, they must be really doing something. Um, well, but he only swung the bat for 7 minutes of that 30-minute lesson. You know,
Right. Yeah. No reps. Yeah. I mean, standing on a box, working on balance drills, trying to move forward. That's not conducive for an organic,
Mhm.
full of rhythm swing that you can mimic and master because it's just you. When you put a ball in your hand, you are changing. It's not going to be the path of least resistance for your body type. Me and you are built differently. So we're gonna our bones and stuff are gonna move differently through space, and when you start putting a connection ball together, now you're starting to put everybody's swing in those same parameters, which might not work for everybody. I mean, it's the same way you can watch a Cunha Jr. or a Griffey. They're big armbar guys. I
Mhm.
mean, they and then there's some guys that just aren't armbar guys. So am I going to say one way is better than the other? No, as long as your barrel gets to contact. I mean, if you're finding the barrel consistently, then who am I to tell you how to do it? So I think they mean well by trying to get kids shorter, trying to get them to stay inside the ball. Um, and that's not the only one. The ones that I really can't stand are like the hula hoop and some of those implements, just a pipe. I mean, if you want to do stretching drills, go do stretching drills. uh,
Mhm.
you know have a kid come early. You're at a lesson, you're not with them, and you just say, hey, this is what we do here. I'm gonna have you do some rotational turning stuff just so you can work on getting your body into some good postures, and then maybe start the lesson. But that shouldn't be part of your lesson.
Right.
I mean, you
Right.
only have so much time to work on hitting, and I don't want my kids to think that that is incorporated into my hitting routine. Because guess what? You can't take a pipe on the road with you. So for a lot of these
Well, the
pro
hoop.
guys, yeah, or the hula hoop, like you can't put that under the bus. Can't fly with it. So when I see these pro guys using a ball or doing, I mean, using tons and tons of bands and stuff like that to hit, I just gotta shake my head. Like, where's your head at? I just don't. It doesn't make any sense to me for mental stability, which has got to be 90%. It's got to be more of that for the game. So
Yeah. I always tend to my brain always drift when I think of gadgets. I'm picturing Rene Russo and Kevin Costner, in Tin Cup, and he's trying to
exactly.
find his swing, and he's got this thing on his head just floating back and forth, trying to keep his head still. Um, it just seems like it's just too much. Like I always call it, we call interference. Like, are we maybe able to like put it into one aspect of the swing and we can really focus on that? Great. But one of the videos that stood out to me, and I'll let you explain it. You were talking about when the hands get back to like the launch position, if you will. You were seeing a lot of these new drills are making the hands the first movement they're dropping as opposed to going forward.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Well, I think that's comes back to that muscle memory where you start to, put that ball on your shoulder or whatever. And we both know how fast this game is. And if your hands aren't moving in a direction that's positive towards the ball, you're wasting time. So, and
I mean, you don't have.
I mean, you just don't. I mean, all that time you have to take to swing the bat. When we start to see those guys really dumping that bat behind them, like that is not part of the swing. And I don't know what part of video those guys are looking at, but that's not what I did. That's not what you did.
Mhm.
I mean, it's pretty apparent. And for some reason, you wonder why they teach this stuff. So when I watch guys teach, when they don't focus on this or the hands trying to move forward organically, nice and smooth, you can't pull your elbow into your body. You got to just let it roll around your body. It's not You're not trying to be tight. You're just trying to make the bones be relaxed and move around. The only thing you got a little grip on is your back. I mean, you got to hold it. So it's just like throwing a ball. I mean, you can't muscle everything up or you can't throw it. So yeah, when I see the hands, dropping and scooping and doing all these things like this, you're killing kids. I mean, some of the and you got to think, there's like a lot of college kids that have a lot of potential, and no, none of these guys are taking the responsibility to really understand what they're teaching. Because for me, I think a lot of these kids could probably be a lot better if they got away from all these mechanical ways of thinking. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I see that all the time, and I just started voicing myself. You can only take so much of it before you start to say, look, enough is enough. And I love the movement that Jeff has done, Fry, and he's moved forward with, like, hey, look, I don't care. I played 10 years in the big leagues. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm just going to tell you how it is. And I 100% back him. Swing a bat. Keep it as simple as possible.
Right. Well, like many people said, hitting is maybe the hardest, if not one of the top hardest things to do in sports, and we're making it harder than it is. It seems like.
Sure.
I wasn't a huge video guy when I played. I felt like I just need to see the ball. I need to get in a good position and go. I was already I had too many thoughts going on anyway, and I'm like,
Sure.
if I add more to this, it's going to explode, right? Is that
Right.
did you play like that too a little bit?
Yeah, you didn't have video. I never saw my swing. I couldn't. I mean, the only time
You're
I
too
saw my,
old. Is that what it is?
but you know what? We still had success.
Right.
Success was built off of trial and error and feel, not by trying to identify something that. I mean, remember, your body's trying to move in the a path of least resistance. That's just what it wants to do. You think you can change that? Like, you know what I mean? Like your body's already moving the way it wants to move. Now you got to figure out a better idea. I mean, if I keep swinging at a fastball and I keep missing underneath it, I better start trying to swing above it.
Right.
Like,
Better make
you
an
know,
adjustment. Yeah.
yeah, got to
Yeah.
make it fit. I mean, you can't. You got to make an adjustment from pitch to pitch. I mean, we're in the batter's box. You can't sit there and start thinking mechanics. You got to start thinking with your head.
Mhm.
And if your perception is, I'm late, then you got to think differently. You got to start to think, how do I get the barrel out front? It's like those are, and when I see guys talking about the way the swing moves, so when they start talking about the bat going through the zone, those are all the things you can't control. They're moving at 80 miles an hour. Why are we talking about that? I mean, they're like, you should go through the zone like this. I'm like, well, what if the pitch is in a different spot? Like
How do you
the,
adjust to it? Right.
the pitch dictates where your bat moves, not you. And I think a lot of these gurus just think you can make this golf pass right through the middle of the plate, and you should have success doing that. But we both know that's not true. You got to use your hands to hit. So I'm not a guy who's going to sit there and tell you swing down on the ball, but hell, that's what you do. I mean, your hands go from here. to a downward position, and then when your body starts making its turn, the barrel starts to invert because your shoulders have to start turning, and that makes the bat go up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's natural. I
So
mean, you yeah, you can take a 7-year-old, swing a bat. Look, it's amazing.
yeah,
He came back up.
that's how
So
I've seen it as well. Where because I my whole career because I had some different coaching philosophies on. I kind of naturally had what my natural swing was a little bit slightly uphill. I didn't try to lift the ball,
sure,
but if I had a high fastball, I would go up at it that way, right?
sure,
As opposed to there,
right.
or down. And so that adjustment I was told to make, which I did, had my best year ever when I did that. But then I was told from another person that that's not the way to do things.
Oh
So
yeah,
confusion sets in, and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do? How do I do this? So you just, again, you try to figure it out. And now you start, who do I trust? I don't know who to trust with this advice. So you try to kind of just figure it out yourself.
yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing: we want to be coachable. Like that's what we get taught all the time.
Right.
So for me, I went from organization to organization, and I kept getting advice to change my setup or widen out or stand up or do this or do that, and it's like I would never tell a professional player, don't change unless you want to change. Like, is it something you want to do? Like, you want to work on, let's work on rhythm and timing and see if we can maybe manufacture something that might make you land and feel a little bit more comfortable. But I would never physically just say, yeah, okay, you're not hitting, let's change your setup. Like,
Right.
that's never the problem
Get
for
your
me.
hands up here. Let's get them really low. Let's try
Yeah,
something
right.
completely opposite.
Yeah, and that was my problem is I was too coachable. I mean, I don't know if that's you can say that, but I just tried to comply with whatever I was being told,
Sure.
and when it didn't feel good, I tried to do it, and I think a lot of that came into play. And then I'd have to go back to how I felt good, and I would always feel like I could find success more from that point of view instead of getting caught up in what everybody else wanted me to do. So yeah, that goes back to all this balls and stuff. You're trying to do something somebody else wants you to do, forcing you to make yourself do something, and it's not even natural for your body to do. So yeah, I'm a big proponent. Swing the bat. Just learn that implement. Don't swing another implement. Get good with that one. It's not going to help you swing another one. You need to use the one that you're using.
Yeah.
So
Sure. Yeah. Well, I've really enjoyed that stuff. So going forward, you've been coaching 8 years now with your
yeah.
team. You said you kind of travel a little bit here and there. Is it more local, or is it a little bit of mixture? Where do you typically go?
I try to just stay in the Midwest. We don't go too far. I always tell my kids we can get our putts kicked anywhere, and if you guys are good enough to play, I'll be able to find you a home.
Okay.
I mean, they just have to understand. I mean, I don't think anybody really understands how hard it is to play college baseball. I mean, at a decent level. I mean, there's just not that many kids that are capable of doing it. Um, and I think everybody thinks, oh, if you go to showcases, you're going to make it. I'm like, no, I mean, we have to play showcases at this point because there's no other options.
Right.
They've taken that and monopolized on it, and you can't even find a game anywhere. So yeah, I mean, we just fall into that trap, and I mean, I'm okay with it. There's a lot of good coaches out there that will show up at these things. They will do their due diligence and work to make sure they're looking at the players and want to get some good evaluation on them. But for the most part, a lot of the contacts that I have is just like, "Hey, Rick, who you got? You got anybody for me?" And I'm just honest. I tell them exactly what I think they're going to get mentally, physically. Is that person going to fit in your program? I mean, I I have a reputation too, and I don't want college coaches to come back to me and be like, I'm not going to trust Rick anymore because he just gave me a kid who was a cancer.
Hmm.
So I tell my kids, I'm like, look, you are playing every game not only for everybody else but for me. My eyes are on you because what I tell these coaches is going to reflect a lot on what happens. I'm going to dictate a lot of your future. So look, play hard. You know, don't hang your head. It's part of the game. I'm not saying you can't show some emotion, but you got to check it at times. So
Sure.
that part of the game is, that's the hardest part, I think, and that's why I think it's good what you're doing with the mental side of it because I feel like I don't. I mean, I do a lot of the mental stuff during all my training stuff, but it's never really specialized. I don't really get into a lot of the kids' heads. I can't really single any of them out. If I do, it's very. It's usually my biggest project. You know, the kid who's just
Sure.
throws his helmet all the time, and I got to really have some good talks with him. But um, other than that, it's hard for me to get into a really good mental state because I'm so busy doing everything else. That's why it's hard. Like I said, it's hard to find good help. If I could get good
Yeah.
help, it would be awesome.
Well, that's what when I've talked to parents about who are looking into like getting coaching for their kid to do the mental stuff, that's part of the explanation is, hey, your kid's doing the right things. He's doing pitching lessons if he's a pitcher. He's doing hitting lessons. Those are the right things, but your instructor doesn't have the time. He has he has to get your tee work done, your flips, and maybe some live in 30 minutes. There's only a sliver that maybe he could even implement there, and that's not necessarily his job. His job is to get you. There's maybe a piece of that you can work it into,
Sure.
but we're talking about, no, let's like this. Let's sit down for 20, 30 minutes. Let's talk about what maybe you're going through or you're not going through anything. Okay, how do we get you mentally stronger? Can we give you a skill, a strategy to use that
Right.
that we probably wish that we had, when we were playing.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I was completely I was a mental mess every time I went out there. It was, I felt like I was going into a boxing match every single night, like it was life or death. Oh God, don't have another 0 for 4. And it took me a long time to let that go. I mean, I don't know how many. I mean, every night, I could go 1 for 4 and hit a double, but my only thought process was, what did I do on those 3 other at bats? And it would just roll in my head. I'd go to dinner and be like, well, I shouldn't have missed that pitch. What froze me on that changeup? It was right there. Why didn't I swing at it? Just little things like that, and you just beat yourself up, and you're not going to move forward when you do stuff like that. You got to just let it go. Uh, go to somebody like you, get the mental help that you need. Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I think that's something that's definitely needed. If I had the time, I would try to implement a big training session of just the mental side of the game. It's hard. It's good that you're doing that. I think that's the biggest service. Like I said, I think the mental side of the game is still in that 90%, even though we're not treating it that way. And if these kids want to get better, they have to get better in the head,
Mhm.
and not worry so much about what their swing looks like. I mean, I always look at Hunter Pence. He swung a bat like he was unfolding a lawn chair,
Mhm.
and he could rake. He understood his swing. He understood how to make it move. I mean, he was extremely mechanical, but he knew it. I guarantee you, he wasn't making adjustments physically. He was making adjustments mentally. And
Right.
when you do that, you're going to probably have a lot more success. So trying to get to the perfect swing to me is wasting time. It's just wasting time trying to spend, especially when we're talking about college and pro guys or even high level high school hitters who think they have a few miles an hour of their exit velocity. Kids that are sitting at 92 and like, I want to get to 98. I got to figure
Yeah.
something out. What do I do here? How do I twist more? How do I sit more in my back hip?
Yeah, and
When you start
their mechanics break down to try to get those extra velocity points, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're going to think about those things, and now it can't be organic. It can't just flow. It can't be a rhythm thing. So, yeah, I wish we could stop all that, but man, there's too many parents that are on board at this point because obviously they got tons and tons of clients. I mean, or they wouldn't be in business. So
Mhm.
so they're definitely pulling the wool over a lot of people's eyes, and I think there's a lot of them that mean well. I don't think that they're trying to hurt kids. I think that they're trying to help them, but I just don't think they are going about it the right way. And I think a lot of them get stuck in teaching the mental side of hitting. Like while you're hitting, like that's when I will get in. When we get into live, like when we start to get into recognition and pitches away, like what's your approach? What are you going to try to do with this pitch? Um, all that stuff's the mental side for me, and those guys don't know that side. They've never stood in a batter's box, so that's where they're limited. And so their lessons consist of stretching, using poles, using all this other stuff, and now they just go into T. And I mean, I can't. I mean, how many times have you seen T? Like all these videos, it's just a tee. Like not a lot of live stuff. I mean, we do live every. I mean, you gotta get recognition down. Like for me, that's the biggest thing. You know, get your rhythm and timing down because that to me is the biggest key. Learn your own physical rhythm, whether it's a leg kick or not.
Mhm.
There's Paul Molitor, nothing, almost no movement. You have these like a Jeff Fry, big leg kick. Um, doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. So when I see one guy teaching one thing, we teach leg kicks here. Why? You know, it's pointless. They should be teaching the game itself and let guys just kind of flow through it and give them the best advice possible to make changes when they're ready for changes.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, it's hard to watch. It really is hard to watch. And with social media the way it is now, it's just a booming thing. So if you're a good social media platform and you're a good used car salesman, you can throw enough videos on there and get enough followers to make people believe what you're selling.
Mhm.
And that's what we're getting. We're
Right.
just getting a lot of that. I mean, if we didn't have social media, none of these guys would have jobs. I mean,
Mm.
that's just the honest truth. I mean, nobody's going to show up at with their ball and their hula hoop and a pipe and be like, I'm going to teach your kid lessons. They're going to be like, what are you talking about?
They got their
But if,
extra bag, right? Extra bag.
yeah, exactly. But if they have to, but if they get 40 videos trying to explain and giving a bunch of garb on it and sounding professional, you're going to get a lot of parents that are going to buy into it. So I blame social media for a lot of these guys being successful.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, that's the hard part that for me, and I don't want anybody to fail at life, but I also want to see these kids be successful and get the best information possible. So
Yeah. No, and that's the boat I'm in. I agree. I like I said, I don't know if all these gizmos and gadgets help or not. I've never really tested them. I'm kind of like, would I use that? Would I put a PVC pipe on my back? I'm like, yeah, I guess that would make sense to posture, and where's my spine angle to feel that, maybe, but I don't want that part of my lesson. Like you said, that's maybe a side thing. Hey, do
right,
that for 2 or 3 minutes before you come in, then we're going to get to work on hitting baseballs, right?
right, exactly. It's just that simple.
Yeah, it's funny you say the. I had a kind of my personal tryout with myself. I finally said, I'm not. I took one season. It was actually here when I played in Vegas. I went through a bunch of these injuries. I was kind of on injury rehab after my labrum surgery, and I was already so concerned and worried about my shoulder. I was like, I cannot worry at all about my swing. Like, I'm not going to think anything about my swing. I already know it's good, so trust it, and then just make sure you stick with the same approach. And my approach at that point, I don't know, 24. This is my big league window was like closing already quickly. Uh,
Right,
so 24, I think, yes, 24. But I said, I'm just going to stick with this approach. I'm hitting off fastball every pitch, and I'm looking middle away, just slightly middle
yeah,
away. I felt I was quick enough to adjust in. Um, I hit, I in 2 months I was hitting like 370, just
right.
killing it,
Keeping
and,
it simple.
and it became easy. And I was
Yep,
like, because my mind was so clear, I was so focused on what my approach was. I didn't go hit anything extra in the cage because it's Vegas and it's 110 and that sucks.
yeah,
And the cage was actually beyond center field. Even our hitting coach was George Hendrick. He's like, we're not doing any early work or extra work, right?
yeah. We had tons of nights where we didn't do anything. It was just
Yeah,
show up at 5.
it's
Yeah,
it's just it's too much because you got to play a game every day. So I learned a lot, and I share that with kids. Not the point of, hey, you don't need to go do work, because you do need to do the work. But I was at the stage of being a professional at 24, having years of experience now and a lot of at bats. I was starting to get a feel of who I was and what I could do. But my body was so banged up, I couldn't. When I got back up to the big leagues, I played so well. Now I'm the fifth outfielder, and now kind of like what you were saying your role was at sometimes at AAA. Now
right,
you're just playing like once every 5 days, maybe a pinch hit, and now that's a whole different thing. But it taught me a lot personally about the mental game. Like, dude, I was good enough to just stick with an approach and
right.
trust it because it was good enough and it's there. Like you're saying, we don't think we're good enough, right? At
Right.
that level. Oh, I'm probably maybe I do need to change something. Well, probably you don't.
Exactly.
There might be an adjustment here or there. So it's interesting. That was kind of my personal experiment, and I kind of my window closed really quickly. But after that, I had a few more injuries to go through, but I just went with that approach, um,
Yeah.
and had success with it. Just didn't have any more big league chances, but it was all in my mind.
Yeah, and to me, when you keep it that simple, I always look at Freeman when he talks about it. He's like, "Well, you're gonna think my practice routine's really boring because I just try to hit hard ground balls, hard line drives to the shortstop." And I'm like, "It's genius because all your if you're only thinking one thing, all your adjustments are off of one thing. If you sit there and go, I want to try to pull this ball or I want to try to hit this ball, you gotta really start to think about a
Hmm.
lot of different ways to swing your bat instead of just making that outside to in adjustment, top to bottom, outside to in, just like you said.
Right.
Look away, react in. I mean, this isn't a hard game, but we've made it to the point where there's just a lot of things that have to go on in the physical parts of the swing. Kids can't even get into that part of it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, we're just old school, and hopefully, it starts to make a full circle, and we start to see it make a little bit of a turn, where guys that have put their time in can get back in and really help these guys. I, I feel like we would, if they had guys like us in organized ball, there would be better mental approaches to the game. I'm not saying, you know, whether or not the swing would be any better, but there'd definitely be guys walking around the clubhouse more confident, understanding themselves as individuals. They're all different. Everybody's different. I'm different than you. My approach is going to be different. I'm a different player. We're just not the same guy. The four-hole guy is not the same as the leadoff. I mean, they're just two different game plans.
Hmm.
They're not the same player. And I think a lot of guys just don't know their role. Everybody thinks they're a home run hitter. I mean, how many guys have you seen on Instagram just lift and separate every single pitch?
And
It's like,
that's exactly what I see.
yeah,
You're creating this swing path and this cookie cutter swing for a 5'7", like you were saying, 140 pounds in high school. Like
yeah,
imagine yourself doing that.
yeah,
When your best bullet is a fly ball to the outfielder. Uh,
right.
like what are we doing here? So
Exactly.
it's just interesting. But yeah, I'm interested to finally if I could potentially talk to an actual athlete that is been going through maybe some of these hitting changes, that what the thought process is and how much are they when they get into the box in the game, are they able to just focus on the ball and take the swing out like my swing is, or are they thinking, okay, back elbow in,
Yeah,
that works back, front foot up
right.
45 degrees, hips
Yeah,
first. I don't know, but
yeah.
it's
Yeah, there's a lot of thinking having to go on. I don't remember ever putting the dominoes like that and trying to lay them all out. We just did it. We let the body naturally move the way it should. And yeah, let me know when you talk to somebody because I don't really let none of my kids use tools. We have some pipes in the building because we do stretches. We do some of that spine tilting. I mean, if my guys don't have range of motion, how do you expect to hit a pitch down in the zone? You're not going to get to it. So
right.
I mean, I want my kids to understand that you have to flex, extend your body. There's things that you have to do physically to be able to do the swing, but like we said, you don't have to do that in the lesson. You can just tell them,
Yeah,
like, hey,
yeah.
yeah, dude,
And maybe we're not giving kids enough credit if when they go through it, but I don't know, it just seems like a lot, to
yeah,
it's overkill. But but I'm also like to, if athletes are going through all this stuff, um where's the success stories? Is this actually working at the high school level? This
right,
the high D1 prospect, that draft prospect is utilizing all of these things, and are they getting the? It's just I want to see it. I want to start seeing proof.
yeah, sure. Like how many guys are coming out of these programs? Yeah, and I'm willing to bet it's the same as it's always been. you know, it's the same amount of guys. The percentage of college, it's always going to be the same. And the college has never changed. It's not like guys in college right now are hitting, 500 with 35 home runs, everybody in the lineup. It's the same. It's the
Right.
same guys. The 3, 4 hit the home runs. The leadoff guy hits, it doesn't, it's never changed. The game, even in the big leagues, look how many guys, I don't even know how many guys hit 300. Not that average means anything. I like OPS. Like I like on base percentage in the slugging. How hard can you hit a ball? And are you chasing pitches? Like, can you take pitches and walk? And to me, those are good hitters. So sometimes you can fall down with average, but you might walk a lot more. So guys that are hitting 260, 270, but they're in the upper eights, 900 OPS. Well, they're doing their job. I mean, they're doing it. But yeah, these kids, there's no difference in the big leagues right now. I'm not seeing a huge influx of high OPSs. You're just not seeing it. You're not seeing high batting averages. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see in the next few years what really happens and transpires through some of these college kids that are now. This is kind of a booming thing. I don't know how long this has been going on, but I've seen it probably consistently now for at least the last couple of years.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Yeah,
Wait it out.
we'll see what the history kind of points out, and like you said, I just hope that hopefully it works for them, these kids. I don't know if it does or not, but at the end of the day, it's all about the kids, and if that gets them on track to reach their potential, great. If more of an approach like you're teaching, which I feel is the better way, it makes more sense to me personally. Um, then that's great too, But it's 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 all about the kid. It's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. Giving them, turning them into good human beings, and hopefully they go in the right direction and they're positive. One thing I can't stand is watching these younger kids with the egos that they have. They're building into these egos, and that's because of the instruction they're getting. I mean, you can see the backlash that a lot of these guys get. Jeff Fry gets hammered with backlash from some of these guys, and it's just disappointing because I know that at those facilities, they are so brainwashed that now they're looking at these kids that are being taught this, high school kids, whatever age, they're being taught that. And now they're thinking of Jeff Fry is clueless about hitting.
Mhm.
And it's like, that's where I'm really disappointed is they're teaching those kids to be, just not good human beings. And that's the sad tragic story of watching those guys teach these kids this and then brainwashing them and not listening to a Jeff Fry who spent 10 years in the big leagues. It's like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you
I,
listen to him?
I think at the end of the day, hitting is rather pretty simple in regards to whether it's A to B, whatever you teach. That's you see the pitch, you get on time, be in a good position, be balanced, and hit the ball.
Right.
It's yeah, you might be trying to get on plane, but to add all these extra thoughts that make
Yeah.
it's already the hardest thing to do. It's just tough, and I'm questioning whether kids can handle it. Maybe they can. I don't know, but we'll see. I guess
We'll
time will
see.
tell.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, this has been great, Rick. A lot of great information. I love your passion, what you've been doing on Facebook with your videos, and very informative. I'm learning things from them too. So keep that up. Where can they? Are you on all the social media channels? Where can people find you?
Yeah. You can just, Rick Prieto at Instagram, Facebook. Those are really the two that I use the most. I have quite a few videos on Instagram. But yeah, yeah, pretty much just hanging out there, and then I'm in these groups that you're in, and I see I see kids, and every now and then I'll see kids that'll they'll hey, they'll ask for advice, and I always try to look at a video if I run across it and try to give them, I'll look at it and try to analyze it, and I usually put it up there and try to help them out whenever I can. I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it to help the kids. So for me, I like even on my teams, I don't charge that much. The kids out here, they know. I mean, I'm in a small town, small town. I'm not in the city. I can't charge a lot, and so everything I do is strictly for the kids and just enough money for me to feed my family. And I enjoy it. It's the most fun. I love working for myself. I love working all the time. Like I said, I work 7 days a week, but my wife Ashley, she keeps me in check on a day.
Gotta listen to mama. Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, hey, dude, keep up the good work. We'll stay in touch on everything. And any last little nuggets that you have for our audience?
Um, I think I covered a lot.
Good.
I feel like I talked a lot. Um, no, I just, I enjoy doing this, and if anybody starts following me and has any questions and they want to send me some videos, feel free. I mean, I may not get to them right away, but I'll definitely do my best to try to get to them. I do get an influx sometimes. Every now and then I'll get kids that'll send me stuff, and I try to help them out as much as I can. And yeah, I know a lot of guys do this online. They want to charge a lot of money, and it's like, I want to help as much as possible. When we're doing video analysis, it's, for me, I mean, I'm okay with people charging money, but that's not what I'm doing. I don't need to do that. I'm gonna help kids as much as I can, as long as my wife will allow me to do it.
Unless you're doing like 5 hours of video analysis when you come home from work,
Yeah,
right? It's like, whoa, wait a minute.
I'll tell you right now though, I enjoy doing it. Like, to me,
Yeah,
it's more fun to help a kid. To me, the payment is the smile, and then the dad saying, "Wow, this is really awesome. I love that you took the time to do this." And to me, that's what it's all about. I'd rather do that, and that's more than money to me.
yeah, awesome.
I've never been a money guy. My wife kind of hates it because I'm she's the mean one. She's the one who has, you got to charge something.
Yeah. Well, isn't your from my I think some of your posts, isn't your wife, is she fit in fitness or something like that? Or
Yeah, she has her own. So she started her own. It's called Swole Mates, and it's an online group. You spend, it's like a trial month, 14.99, and she walks you through. Well, she does the workouts for you. So it's basically like she'll go through every workout throughout the week, and it's her on film, and she'll go along with you, tell you what to do. Yeah, they're awesome. She's
nice.
really good at what she does.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's she's got a huge group. There's probably, maybe 1,000 women that do it now, and so she sells T-shirts, family. So she's been able to do that, and it's been working out really good for her. She works her tail off, though. I'll tell you what, she outworks me by far. It's I made it seem like I work hard, but she can work me under the table. Let me
That's
tell you.
awesome. Well, when we're done here, I want to keep talking to you about that.
Okay.
Well, this has been great, dude. So everyone follow Rick at Rick Prieto, on Instagram, Facebook. He's got
Yep.
some great videos, all that stuff. But Rick, man, this has been great. I appreciate your time. Nice to. I love rekindling. We weren't teammates. We played against each other. We didn't know each other, but I remember you. I remember you were a fiery, like you were a second baseman, outfielder, could kind of utility, could play anywhere. Um, I imagine playing shortstop. You're going to come in and just rip my head off if I was,
I, I was one of those kind of intense players where, yeah, I'd run into a wall. Probably why I got hurt quite a bit,
Yeah.
because I really just, yeah, I just like to play hard. I was always taught, when somebody comes to watch you for the first time, you don't want that to be the game. They're like, I thought he played hard. It's like, yeah, so I always tried to lay it out there. And if my jersey wasn't dirty at the end of the game, I was not happy. I was not happy.
You're
But
not happy. The clubby's pissed because now he's got to clean the jersey.
I'm paying extra dues.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, awesome, Rick. This has been great, man. Again, thanks for coming on, and we will keep in touch. And I will see you around.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Chad. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. We'll see you. Take care.
Yep. Yep.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that conversation with Rick Prieto. Rick's a good dude. He was a gamer, man. He's one of those guys that was a smaller type of player that just was a spitfire, right? Just all over the place. So Rick, appreciate you coming on. A lot of great insight. Make sure you guys go follow him. He's been doing some really cool videos, in particular on hitting, and just kind of, we're not here to debunk all the other guys that are doing these kind of weird contraption things, but in a way, we just want to make sure that we feel like kids are getting some wrong information. That we want to get them pointed in the right direction to focus on hitting, and not all these gadgets. So, thanks again, Rick, for coming on. Make sure you also go to mentaledgetoday.com. That is my online mental edge video vault program. I'll give you 4 to 5 videos per week to work on your mental game from a mental side, the emotional side, and the physical side. So 4 to 5 videos per month. Each week, you can get on a live weekly call for me to go over the things that you've been going on for that week. I want to support you. I want you to ask questions, and then I can help coach you through any obstacles or situations that you're going through. And plus, it's really cool to hear other athletes, things that they might be working on, and how you can hear their stories, their experiences. So I think it's just a great community and really an experience for you to go through to hear from other athletes and get some coaching. So again, thanks for joining this episode, and I'll see you in the next show. Take care.